Oh, hey, what's up, Internet? So, the world's full of bad news, and I want to give you the opportunity to have some good news today, right now. Let's have some good news together.
Yeah, I'll give you a hand.
I don't do this normally, but maybe I will start doing this because more awesome will happen. This news is from SpaceX, and it's immense. Like, the news is incredibly immense, and I've got my phone, and it tells me news frequently, and I don't hear any news about this. That's why I'm making this. Maybe you'll hear it from me first. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to share. The guy behind me here is the CEO of SpaceX, Elon Musk, also Tesla as well. Yep, chairman of Solar City, something like that, or they bought anyway. Complicated. Don't need to talk about that. He did a presentation recently. I'm going to go over this presentation quickly, just give you some highlights, because if you watch it at regular speed and you're not already interested in this kind of stuff, you'd fall asleep. So I'm going to try to keep this in like chronological order. Bing, bing, boom, bam, done. So he started with some jokes. It was really dry, like the audience. He talks about also like the current rockets and how they only land with a single rocket. And they had, I think, 16 landings so far. When he said that, I think number 18 was just a couple of days ago. But he talks about the BFR, which you'll see pictures of shortly. It has multiple, well, there's a little picture of it, multiple rockets, and he makes a hint at some of the news that it'll have a reliable landing on par with the safest commercial airliners. He had sort of a poetic moment where he was talking about the fourth launch SpaceX conducted. If it failed, then the company would not be in existence today, but it went through. Watch this.
For SpaceX. But fate liked us that day.
I mentioned how the Falcon Heavy needed a near full redesign. It's not as simple as just putting on like extra boosters, as you can see here. That was interesting. BFR in this same chart, it brings up and it shows as the payload capacity being at 150 tons. That's it's massive. That's a lot of weight, or mass, should I say? Oh man, he starts showing pictures too, of like with to scale. So here's a picture of the thing, and there's a person right there. See the person, the little person? Oh man. There's another one of the side. It's like looking down. There's a person. Wow. So yeah, he mentioned, so total vehicle mass here is 4,400 tons. That's a lot. And 150 of that, because that says total, 150 of that's capacity. And that's interesting to think about. And then 5,400 tons of thrust to get it to do its thing. But yeah, it's interesting to think about, because if you think about it, like your car and your body, like your car weighs maybe around 3,000 pounds and your body weighs maybe around 200. Meh. And so that's like a 1 to 15 or 15 to 1 ratio there. And so for this, that 150 to 4,400, that's around 30 times. So, and I'm just going really round with the numbers here. If you have a 6,000 pound truck and you use it primarily to just haul your butt around, that is similar to the like ratio of this, which is interesting if you think about it. Yeah, and of course a truck can haul more than just you, but for primary use, I mean, that's how it gets used. Sounds very American. Okay, and then he went into detail on how the fuel and the Delta Wing are utilized during flight. He just talked a lot about stuff. So there's the Delta Wing, and it's kind of like flat overall. He shows some stuff, like they can butt up next to each other, and like one can refuel the other. That was cool. But while he was talking about like this portion, he went into the cargo area specifically, and he said the pressurized cargo volume is greater than an A380. Boom, second reference to commercial airliner. And then it shows these little things here are cabins, like people can fit in them. It said 2 to 3 people per cabin for a Mars trip, getting about 40 out there. But I think he talked about like 5 can fit in there. I don't know. It makes that movie that like Matt Damon was in, with they just had like a very small group of people, almost like it was science history, fiction. Man, if the first rockets that go to Mars with people are gonna have like 40 people, the ones that carry people, wow. Are they really gonna do that? I don't know. Okay, and then look at this word. Solar storm shelter. A solar storm shelter. You can't not have one of those. Duh. Rocket science. But he spoke in layman's terms, and there's a really cool moment in the video. It's about 20 minutes in. And so when you equate rocket science to things sloshing around, I feel like I understand. You know what I mean? So I'll share that with you right here.
But you can't have the propellant just sloshing around all over in main tanks. You have to have the header tanks that can feed the main engines with precision. So that's what you see immersed in the fuel tank.
Okay, so that's about how the whole thing went for like cadence and tone. And so if you're into this subject, you can deal with that really well. But if you're not, you will probably fall asleep unless you have it on double speed. This gets better. Redundancy with engines, the circle things, and they blew out the fire, and the thing goes and it stops and it goes. It's good times. Okay, capability and cost comparison. He did that. So capability chart is here. Anyway, the BFR has a little more capacity. I mean, several tons more capacity than the Saturn V. But then he switches it over to, let me mute that. He switches it over to cost comparison. So there's the capacity comparison and then cost comparison, and he shoves the BFR all the way to the left, being cheaper than even the first generation rocket that SpaceX used to launch. And it's heavily because of the reusability of the entirety of the rocket. And it was really neat. So, oh yeah, and I love it. He says this several times in other venues as well, usually the space stuff.
It's really crazy that we build these sophisticated rockets and then crash them every time we fly. This is mad. And often I'll be told, but you could get more payload if you made it extendable. I say, yes, you could also get more payload from an aircraft if you got rid of the landing gear and the flaps and just parachute it out when you got to your destination. But that would be crazy, and you would sell 0 aircraft.
That was one of the cool moments. I mean, several were there, but that was one I wanted to highlight because I like it. He talks like that a lot. And the crowd throughout the majority of this was incredibly dull. I'm pretty sure it's full of just engineers or something. Orbital refilling, he talked about that, and the cost of fuel was really low. He talked about oxygen and methane and how you could use like renewable energy to make those things for those concerned about renewable energy or just straight fossil fuel energy use. And then here's the thing, launching, or I guess you can say deploying a satellite. This is a really neat picture. He says it's a near 9 meter like payload capacity thing. And he also talked about how the rocket could just go around and like chomp up space debris, I guess, to collect space debris. Can you see that? I can't even see that. So yeah, 9 meters is pretty big. And he also, though, talked about the Hubble Space Telescope, and I think he suggested like replacing that. And so if you're watching this, Elon, very unlikely, but thanks for this time, you should Google, and anybody else watching as well, the James Webb Telescope. It's a little bigger than the Hubble. And it's actually, it's going to be launched soon. Yeah, it's got parabolic mirrors. They're hexagonal. It's like 18 foot or 18 meter diameter. I don't know. Yeah, it's really cool. Or you could go to the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, or the Visitor Center, and you can see stuff about it. And I'm hoping to make like a video review, which I'll link in the eye in the corner of the screen for that place because it's awesome. And if you're driving through Maryland, you should totally stop there. It's free, but it doesn't have the best hours. I mean, they are open on the weekend though. Okay, so here's an image also of it refueling the space station. That was kind of funny. People laughed because like it's huge, and then there's like the space station which doesn't look so huge. It's about the size of a football field, roughly, like end to end. But anyway, he mentioned also that this is a similar appearance to the space shuttle. The space shuttle looked very large against the space station. He also talked about range for launching to the moon. And he's like, hey, we should have a moon base. So here's an image of the one, or like you saw, one? He mentioned how you can refill in orbit and then go to the moon and back without having to have fuel at the moon to refuel. So that's cool. Then he talked about Mars again, of course. And he went on to how the rocket would land with this like weird physics engine simulation. He's got all these pictures here too. It's really cool. You should probably watch the whole thing if you're into this. But here's the thing where
You're entering very quickly.
but yeah, it shows like this little, it's like you're playing Virtual Boy. I don't know if you ever played that. And then like the thing lands. Says supersonic retro propulsion. Sounds groovy. Talked about timelines and complete the ship and be ready to launch a couple of them in 2022. Have 2 cargo missions. And then 2024, it's going to be 4 rockets, 2 crew, and 2 cargo. And then they're going to work on like a fueling depot. It's pretty cool. And then he talked about Mars, like a city, how they would start prepping it. And there's like this stages of city growth where it's like, oh, it's cool. I'll just show you a couple of those, like early stage, next stage is like it's just growing. He talked also about how sunsets on Mars are blue, where the day is red. It was okay. But the biggest thing I think in this whole like presentation, even though that all sounds cool and good, it's good news, is this. It has more direct correlation with like your and my lives, because this might actually be a thing for us. And that was that he was talking about how you can take a rocket from one location on Earth to another. And he's got this like sweet video that he showed during the presentation of like an artist rendition of a rocket taking off in, I think it was New York, and it was going to land in Shanghai, and it did in 39 minutes. Oh man, it's so cool. Oh, and so he tweeted about it, and he didn't mention the cost in his presentation, but he tweeted about it, and then his tweet leads you to Instagram, and it says, so fly to most places on Earth in under 30 minutes and anywhere in under 60. And the cost per seat should be about the same as a full fare economy in an aircraft. Like, what? It forgot to mention that. What? That's insane. Like, there are people on the other side of the planet who want to be with other people on the other side of the planet. Sometimes it takes them like 15 or 16 hours to fly, but this can get them there in an hour or less. That is amazing. If this becomes a thing, like world travel is going to change immensely. It's going to be super cool. What? Like, what? I saw this and I was like, oh my God. What, how badass is that? And so I'll link that like rendition video on the bottom and my description as well. That's the big news. Okay. He actually talks during this as well. You should totally watch this, man. But yeah, I wanted to share this news with you because I thought it was good, and we could use a little good news nowadays, along with all the bad news that's out there. Some of it caused by bad people, some of it caused by just bad situations. But yeah, maybe someday we'll be able to travel the world in under an hour for what we normally pay economy fare. Anyway, hope that helped. If you liked this video, there's a button for that. Hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like it, I guess subscribe. I usually don't do news videos. If you want to support the channel, I think in this case it would just be to share this video. Yeah, check out my other videos if you're bored. Yep. See you later, Internet.